Well, welcome everyone from our Microsoft 365 business user groups and participants at this webinar. I would like to kick us off by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this online webinar is hosted. Being online, it's obviously we've got participants and speakers across Australia, and the traditional custodians of the lands where our Australian-based speakers and participants are located. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present and future. Thank you. This is a very interesting time to be talking about one of the biggest initiatives that I've known from Microsoft since I've been involved, and I used to work with Microsoft, and one of my colleagues, Angus Florance, is with us today. Thank you, Angus, for joining, and also Karlee, I would like to thank you for joining us. I must admit that when I joined Microsoft, I thought that a global black belt was a martial artist, and I didn't realise that you're actually an absolute expert in your subject matter of knowledge and insights for Viva now. So could you maybe, Karlee Scott-Murphy, introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your role at Microsoft?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mark, and hi everybody, and thank you for having me here today. So yeah, I am a global black belt, is sort of my internal title at Microsoft. Fun fact, I'm actually a first Dan black belt in Taekwondo as well, actually training for my second Dan. So I'm work and pleasure both carrying that same title. So I started my career actually in HR over way back when. I won't date myself, but I also then pivoted into over a decade of a career in HR tech consulting. So I really come to this product, Microsoft Viva, really understanding kind of the need from an HR perspective. But what I want to tell you all today is it's not just the holy grail from an HR employee experience, but really across the whole thing. So I'm happy to be here today and look forward to our conversation.
Great, we're really excited to have you along, and I, like I was saying, my background, I was working with Yammer and Microsoft a few years ago as a customer success manager, and my colleague was Angus Florance, and we have known him for a long time as the Yammer guy, and he's obviously pivoted roles since this last year. So Gus, would you like to introduce what you're now doing with Microsoft and Viva?
Sure can. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. And it was very interesting to hear, Karlee. Didn't realise that you were the double black belt. That's I'll know how to approach you next time I see you in the office. It's good. Yeah, so like Mark said, I've been with Yammer and Microsoft for quite a while now, focusing on Yammer the product, but also as part of that, one of the core things Yammer always did was employee engagement and employee experience. So it's something I've been passionate about for a long time, even back to our old responsive org days, Mark. So it was great when Viva came around at the start of the year. I was lucky enough to be involved in the product and marketing side of that, in the lead up to that. And then at the start of this year, I switched roles into what's called the customer experience team, and we're tasked with basically working with internal comms folks, HR leaders, and senior leaders across businesses to get the most value out of their investment in Microsoft 365. So whether that's deploying, communities or doing leadership events or news and announcements, workplace communications, those type of things. And they obviously all naturally form into what's now been announced as Viva. And so we're spending a lot of time working with customers. I was very excited. So I've done a lot of those calls with Karlee recently, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion today and sharing what we know and hearing questions and comments from everyone in the crowd. It's certainly a hot topic at the moment, considering everything's happened in the last 12 to 18 months. So it's I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Gus, for joining us from Beechworth. Now, I'd like to encourage everyone to be involved in the discussion. Please put any questions you have for our two experts in the chat as we go. I am Mark Woodrow. I'm an evangelist, Microsoft 365 evangelist for Engage Squared. We're hosting today. Behind the scenes, we've got Steph and Mel producing. Thank you, guys. We would like to make sure that this is quite an open conversation, so we'll duck and weave. We do have a few slides, but on the whole, we want this to be an open conversation, so please do add things to the chat. To kick us off, maybe Karlee, you could actually tell us what is Microsoft Viva? What's important in terms of this launch that's happened this year for Microsoft, and most importantly, its customers and users.
Yeah, thanks. Look, it was a super exciting announcement, and it really took everyone. It's just been a storm, right, to see when it landed. It's so important because, like, as I mentioned in my introduction, it's more than just that HR employee experience, right? It is really about this true experience that impacts people in how they work all the time, right? So particularly of the pandemic last year, and we come online and we're starting to use Teams more as organizations, that's kind of the hub of where all activity gets done. So the idea about Microsoft and Microsoft Viva is really, we've put a stake in the ground and said, look, this is what employee experience is. It's not just about the communications piece. It's not just about the HR kind of communicating the people stuff and, you know, getting you to click on, you know, applying for vacation time for etc. What we're really doing is starting to think about the engagement, the learning, how people can do things, how knowledge comes into the flow of work. And, you know, the statistics that you know, our researchers uncovered and partners that we work with in terms of our research, you know, if we have highly engaged employees, it's said that companies are 21% more have 21% greater profitability. So if we can engage our employees, great, that will help our bottom line. If we have engaged employees, they're 12 times less likely to leave. So, you know, understanding where disengaged employees are and making changes to that is so important, particularly as we go into, there are a lot of roles out there, and it's becoming a candidate market, right, as we kick back into sort of business as usual. So I think this is all, you know, what this is all about is really understanding that Teams is an integral part to how businesses run, and really bringing these experiences in the flow of work to really make it more accessible and a much better experience for employees.
Great, and I gather, well, I do know that there are 4 modules because Stephen Monk, our CEO, has been testing us on this. So we definitely know there's 4 modules. Could you explain what they are?
I can take that one if you like.
Yeah.
In fact, Mark, you could go back and test Stephen, because while there are definitely 4 modules today, there'll be no doubt more in the future. So we'll give you the inside scoop where you can trip him up in the next team test.
Awesome.
So as Karlee was saying, there's Microsoft Viva is a collection of tools around employee experience and how we work every day, and end-to-end work. And so what was announced earlier this year and what's out in the market now, or rolling out in the market, there's 4 main modules. The first one is around, it's called Viva Connections. This really focuses on culture and communications and making sure that the right people inside your organisation get access to the right information, they feel included and can participate and have their voice heard. So it's really around, it really is that core piece around engagement, and a lot of the other modules will also start to surface through the connections piece as well. And we'll dig into each of these in a little bit. The second one is Insights, and so this is there's sort of 2 parts to Insights, and Karlee can talk about this much more in depth, but effectively there's a personal insights view, and I'll admit, you know, having used the Viva Insights for a while now, certainly find this extremely helpful. Everything from making sure that you understand how you're spending your time, that you have enough hours in the day to have focus time and get work done, but even more well-being stuff around, taking time. There's a great integration with Headspace around taking time to meditate or doing virtual commutes, and just making sure that, when we're working in this hybrid world, from home, from work, from the office, making sure we have that time to kind of disconnect and refocus what we're trying to do. The third one is topics, and this is really around that idea of knowledge and expertise. And when I say that, I mean, we have all this stuff happening across our organization. There's information inside email and SharePoint sites and Yammer communities and Teams channels and everything like that. So how do we pull that together? There's so much knowledge. And again, if we think about this in a remote or hybrid work setting, when you can't necessarily just walk up to the person down the hallway and tap them on the shoulder, how do we tap in and source that tacit knowledge that happens across the organisation, be able to ask the questions and make sure the right people are answering it, and then building on that knowledge as the organisation develops and grows? And the last one, which again I'm personally most excited about, is this idea of learning. And so I think we could probably all relate to this in our personal lives or even in our professional lives. The days of taking a week off and going to a course somewhere, especially in the last 12 months, are certainly behind us. But I think what we do now, Mark, you mentioned I'm in Beechworth. I moved up here and had no idea half the stuff I'm doing on the farm here. But so you go to YouTube and you watch a video and you learn. It's all on-demand learning. And so if we can bring that experience into how we work inside our organizations, whether we join a project and we need to skill up on agile methodology, or we need to learn a new skill on the go. This whole idea of a learning module that brings all the different courses available to you just in time, but also from a management point of view, being able to assign, whether that's senior leadership or your manager or even a project manager, you need to assign. People have to have specific skills before they can join a project or get up to speed. So be able to assign different learning and then track that and report on that and monitor that, I think is really important. So they're, like I said, they're the four that we've announced and are launching at the moment. And it's worth noting, and we'll talk about this a bit more, that they are all built on existing capabilities. So you'll notice similarities as we go through each of the modules. They're actually built on top of existing products that we had inside Microsoft 365, but it's really pulling them together in a cohesive way, as Karlee mentioned, through Teams, so through a familiar interface. It's not new things you have to go and do somewhere else. It all is surfaced where you get your work done every day. And so, and like I said earlier, Mike, we'll certainly see some more stuff added in the future, but I'm pretty excited about the four we've already announced so far.
Yeah, and thanks, Angus. I think, adding to that, I think we're not with that and building on those existing capabilities, right? We're not asking customers to throw away existing systems or start from scratch, right? We really want to help our customers extend on their existing investments, right? By better connecting them together and making them more available in that modern kind of experience for their employees.
So Karlee, because we were asked this question about Teams in the past. What is Viva? Is it a platform? Is it an ecosystem? Is it a set of data? What is it?
Yeah, so it is definitely a platform and an ecosystem approach, right? And this initial announcement, when we did the big announcement back in, I think it was February now. So we announced kind of some of these partners that were as part of our ecosystem, right? So we've got content providers, so bringing in content from a learning perspective, right? So with the likes of things, LinkedIn Learning, Skillsoft, Pluralsight, etc. We've got, obviously, from our communications perspective, looking at Teams and Yammer, etc., and really building on that approach. So we're not asking you to build, this is not a new LMS system or a learning management system. We're connecting in with the learning management systems like Saba, like Cornerstone On Demand, etc., and SAP SuccessFactors, obviously Dynamics 365, and our own internal ecosystem as well. So this is just the start. We'll have APIs that will be made public. So if there are people in the ecosystem that want to get involved, there's definitely, connecting up with the teams and starting to be, once the APIs are gone live, is really building it out. But yeah, definitely an ecosystem and a platform there.
Very interesting. So Gus, maybe you can take us through the connections. The connections part in more detail.
You know I love talking about connections, Mike. This is my baby. So Connections, so Viva Connections is, like, as I mentioned at the start, it's about communications and culture. So this is building on your existing communication platforms, and maybe it's worth just thinking back a little bit. So about 3 or 4 years ago, SharePoint went through a big shake-up, and they brought in things like news and announcements, SharePoint Online. They brought analytics and a lot of work around, and the new internet as well. So everything was a much slicker, out of the box. You could create some really compelling content and information, news and announcements. Also, during the last couple of years, Stream came about, and live events became a very important medium, especially over the last 12 months. A lot of people are doing live events, and that employee engagement from the senior level all the way down. And then last year, some marketing guru coined the term the year of Yammer, which was when the new Yammer was launched and really focused on this idea of communities. And so we had these different pieces together that, that really lead up to communications and culture and employee engagement. And so what Viva Connections is actually taking the best parts of all of those different platforms and actually bringing it together into a single curated, branded experience for your employees. So it's effectively made up of two components. One is your what we call the dashboard, and this allows you to create basically a list of actions or tasks or cards that employees can do that need to get done on a daily basis, and these can all be targeted directly to that employee depending on where they are in the organisation, where they're located, their job, their role, whatever it is. So it's all very highly customised and targeted. And then the other part of that is what's called the feed. And so again, this is pulling together the best, like the news and announcements that come through your intranet and any of the communities that you're a part of and conversations, important conversations that are happening in Yammer. We bubble those up into a single feed. So now I think it's particularly important for the likes, for example, frontline workers. So you've got retail staff out on the shop floor. Instead of having them to download 4 apps to get their job done, they have the Teams app, and from there they can access all their important communications coming down from head office and senior leaders, and also interact and have conversations back with them. They can access all the tasks and apps and actions they need to do on a daily basis, plus any of the other supporting apps around shifts that's already built into Teams. So it's really a really nice way to take all the stuff that exists today and put it into a single experience for employees.
So if you've got, and I'll take an example, one of our customers, say St John Ambulance in WA, if they, I guess my couple of questions I've been asked by customers is, how do they need already to have a SharePoint home site? Do they need Yammer to make this work? And how can they brand it so that it's for their frontline workers that actually makes sense for an ambulance organisation, not an office-based sort of organisation?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So as we mentioned, Connections, or in fact, most of the elements of Viva are actually built on top of existing platforms or apps. And so Connections is at its core SharePoint and Yammer. Now, SharePoint Online is a definite requirement. So you need SharePoint Online deployed, and the more you put your news and articles and announcements through that, you obviously get richer content through the feed. But you also build the dashboard interface through a SharePoint Online as well. Now, Yammer, it also can pull through Yammer featured conversation, announcements, conversations from people that you follow, etc. It's not a requirement or prerequisite, but certainly working with the customers who have started doing it, it greatly improves the experience because it's just bringing everything together in a single app. And so SharePoint is absolutely a requirement. Yammer is not required, but certainly makes it a much better experience, particularly, and we're talking about employee experience for those employees. In terms of branding, so today's the Connections app is available today on desktop, and it's deployed through basically the same way you would create and deploy a Teams app inside the organisation. So it's a good way to play with it, but there is a much more streamlined version coming, as the Americans would say, in the summer, but what I will say is, June, July, August. And that'll be much more streamlined, where you can it's a bit easier to do the branding. So you can put, for St John's, for example, they can have their logo, and if they've got a name for their intranet or for their communication brand internally, they could call the app that. So immediately employees recognize what it is and what it's supposed to be. Like that. So for example, in Microsoft, we've got that little Microsoft logo, and it just says Microsoft, and we can click on that and we get our intranet homepage and all the information come to us through that.
Nice. I can assure you, it's not summer in Sydney today. It's like the Northern Ireland winter. So, well, that's great. Let's switch to insights. And I know that Karlee, workplace analytics has been your baby for a while. You very knowledgeable. So, can you explain maybe what insights an organisation and individuals will get through Viva?
Yeah, so thank you. Yes, no, definitely it is. It's one of my passion kind of points. So what we're looking together bringing together here in Viva Insights is bringing together things like My Analytics, that individual view, Glint, workplace analytics into this unified app, right? To really provide that data-driven and privacy protected insights for individuals, managers and leaders. So it's bringing together those wellness features as well that I think that Angus was talking about earlier, which is fabulous, right? I've definitely personally been impacted by the pandemic. My work and life is not, let's say, it's not balanced at all. So things like reminders in the app to take some time to breathe, to do virtual commutes, to block time out for focus time. I'm very passionate about that, but really bringing it together into one app where people can see their own insights. But as a manager and leader, we can also see insights, aggregated insights about my team and what's happening within my team. And really, research tells us that we actually, as a manager of a team, we're going to be the ones that's really responsible for nudging behavioural change at that grassroots level, right? Really influential. So if I can understand insights about my own team, I can then nudge my team's behaviours to make a change. Do I need them to meet one-on-one? Do I need to meet one-on-one more regularly with them, for example? So yeah, I'm really excited to bring that productivity, that wellness, all those insights and goodness together into one place.
So I literally had this in one of the first actual meetings I had in a boardroom the other day, when I mentioned workplace analytics and Viva Insights, and a senior comms person said to me, "Oh no, I don't find that particularly useful. I get the My Analytics, emails, but I don't find that very useful." So I know there's a lot more to workplace analytics and Viva Insights than just the My Analytics. Can you sort of dissect so that we know sort of how the different audiences might digest this in terms of within an organisation?
Yeah, look, I'd love to prove that that person wrong. Look, I'm not a regular kind of daily kind of let's go in it, but I do definitely go in there on a weekly basis. But if we look at the difference, so My Analytics just and it does actually, I hear a lot of people go, "Oh no, we've got workplace analytics," thinking it's My Analytics. So let me explain the difference. So My Analytics is that individual view. I can see my own data. If I wanted to, I could go into my emails and count, or I could go into my calendar and have a look and bring that data. So it's not something that's, I don't have access to already. We're really just surfacing it in a way that's easily consumable by the individual. Nobody else sees that data. That's just data for me. Whereas if we go to workplace analytics, we're looking at this from an organisational view. Aggregated data from the top down, right? So we're not saying this is Mark and this is what Mark's doing and Mark's having 6 meetings a week. That's not enough. We need to chastise Mark, right? This is not what it's about. What we're looking at is really bringing that aggregate view. So I can see as a manager, I can see, or as an organisation, for example, I can see where these pockets of burnout might be, right? People like me in the organisation, I can see, well, actually the modern work team, for example, so Microsoft and the modern work team, actually we got, I think we've had 5, 6, 7, 8 extra days in the last 12 months of leave that's been given to us. 5 was company wide. We've had an extra 3 days given to us by our leadership. And that's because we understood our team were actually really, showing signs of burnout, right? working those long and large times. And if we can understand that, rather than say, hey, you know, sorry, retail organisation, hey, retail, you know, you need to make changes to how you're working, right? We can be more specific about maybe it's the organisation, maybe it's the role type, maybe it's by gender. We can start to understand those insights. Now, the manager and leader insights of Viva Insights, that, as I mentioned before, provides that deeper capability. And then, you know, you go even deeper with the ability to do custom queries, to query and build your own. So we go from that individual viewpoint of my analytics to that really deep capability to do analysis from an aggregate perspective across the organisation.
Wow. So I think the big concern, especially over the last year, what I hear from organisations is around, and then especially as they're planning their strategies for what to do in this new hybrid world, is around wellness, mental, you know, how are our teams, how are people feeling, how, you know, is that something that's I guess is those sort of the insights that this can help with, or what would be what would be your feedback in terms of you know, wellness questions?
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, it definitely has been the top question of mine, definitely last year, and definitely as we go into that hybrid kind of working model where we're starting to think, okay, what does good look like for a fully remote worker versus fully on site versus somebody who's hybrid, right? So we can start to kind of understand and nudge behaviours through those insights. If we can understand, you know, a particular team are working a particular way and we need them to slightly change, if we provide them insights there, that's going to help. So if a manager, you know, a leader of an organisation like our modern work team VP can understand, you know, that we've got these areas of burnout, people are working long and large, we can really start to make a change. And you know, it's those change programs could be comms related, it could be sharing those insights, it could be a whole range of things. But you know, this has been a very particular topic. You mentioned the word feeling there. Now, this is really, we're looking at objective data here. We're talking about data that we get from as we work. We're creating signals as we're having this meeting now, as I'm chatting with Angus on instant messaging, right? We're creating these signals. Glint, for example, is where we look at sentiment, and actually within Viva Insights, we do have out-of-the-box dashboards that bring together those sentiments from questions around wellbeing and others, and bring it together with the behaviours that are happening within workplace analytics data, and we can bring it together too and say, well, if this part of the organisation is feeling, right, there's smoke there, where's the fire? We can start to kind of understand, well, this team are working too hard or not engaged or not connecting or whatever that might be for that. Some of the other kind of use cases on top of kind of that wellness and burnout and disengagement, you know, you could start looking at org efficiency, how many, you know, go take a look in your diary and see how many recurring meetings are happening. How many of those are really long meetings or really large meetings with extra people in there? How much time do you spend multitasking during those meetings? So can we look at some efficiencies that come out of sort of your meeting culture, focus time, networks? You know, there's some really great capability. And for those organisations that have much deeper maturity in this particular area of data science, you know, you can start to do much deeper kind of analysis and even extract that information to then put into your own data lakes as well.
Right, very interesting. We've got a lot to cover and we've got half an hour to go. I have seen there's something in the chat about Viva Learning, and so I see our CEO is sort of asking about creating pathways through Viva Learning. Can you do that? The other question that often I hear about with learning is that people don't actually know what's available. So this on-demand thing that you talked about, Gus, for your brewing or whatever you're doing in Beechworth, that sort of education, how's Viva going to help people with sort of their on-demand learning and the communication to know it's available, most importantly?
Look, let me take that one. So we'll skip forward. We've gone to number 4, but we'll come back to number 3 of those modules. I think Viva Learning, right, really, as Angus mentioned at the start, right, learning is not just about that in-class learning anymore. It's really about bringing together that informal and formal learning into the flow of work, right? So we're aggregating content from people like, from LinkedIn Learning, from our third parties. You saw in that ecosystem slide where we're starting to do that. Look, it looks at providing, you can provide recommendations to content. It also allows managers to recommend that content and track the training, as well as reporting on that too. There's so much interest in the module, and I know, Steve, I have answered Stephen's question in the chat, but that idea of creating learning pathways is something that the team are very, very much aware of, and it's something that we're working on at the moment, right? We see that it's so important to bring together and create a pathway from various different content, from formal to informal. So maybe it's something you've got on a YouTube video that you've picked out, right? And you've got SharePoint content that you want to bring in. So there's a whole range of stuff you could bring in. In the meantime, you could look at something like creating a Teams channel within, a tab within one of your Teams channels to say, for this project, anybody who joins this project, here are the key kind of things that you need to learn, right? You need to do this Microsoft 365 course, you need to do this LinkedIn course, you need to do this, we've custom created a course for this, and bring it together so that anybody, a new starter to the organisation can really hit the ground running much more quickly by bringing this all together and bringing it into the flow of work. So I'm not having to go, oh, okay, right, I've got to go out and do this here. I can just do this and actually do the content without having to leave and go to a different experience. We're bringing that kind of experience as or harmonizing that experience in this particular case.
Right, and this is going to, what's the staging for learning? Because I think it's still, there's been a lot of demand, and it's been a preview stage, is that right? And then we're going to general release. How's the staging looking?
Yeah, so so we're currently in public preview, and look, it was so popular that the link went out and was shut down within 18 hours. We were just oversubscribed to that, but definitely again around that summer period, so our winter, we're looking to go to general availability with Learn. So keep an eye out there. There is a link on the Viva Learning page. We can definitely post that in the chat. Actually, Angus, I think you've got that link there. Beautiful, great. Post that in the chat, and you can get updates to see when that's coming. So yeah, it's coming soon.
Awesome. And you're right, I've skipped the order of that question. Topics was I think the first available. Can you explain how Topics can benefit employees?
Yeah, look, definitely. Look, this is another one that's close to my heart, and for those kind of SharePoint people out there, it's definitely something to look at, right? So we're really looking here about creating a different way of thinking about knowledge and how knowledge comes to the employee, right? You can see if the slide is showing, people spend about an hour a day or up to 7 weeks a year, right, searching for or potentially recreating information that's maybe already there. So what we're doing is trying to think about different ways of bringing that knowledge. So the first, with Topics, the really underlying piece of this is using AI to go across your SharePoint, go across other, ServiceNow kind of content and other content like that, which is part of our ecosystem, to bring together and create within the graph, there's a topic node. So creating a topic page for this information, bringing together what it thinks, the AI thinks is a description, who the important people are because of the content that they've been creating, what are some relevant documents. All of this, if they have access to see it, it will really it will keep those permissions there. So Angus and I will see a very different view to say Viva. A Viva Insights page, for example, because I create a lot more information. I'm a lot closer to that area than perhaps he is, so he won't see some of those documents. It's a really cool way, as you can see on the details on the screen, it might be a little bit small, but as we start to, do things within teams, you can see their project source. So if I'm a new starter, I come in and I'm like, oh, okay, Crystal here has mentioned something about SOAR, and I'm like, oh, I have no idea, I'm a new starter, where is it? Where do I go to find it? You can see by just hovering over, like a people card, like you do now, it will come up with that topic card that's published, and once the AI has kind of done its thing, someone will publish it and it will become available. You could add to that so you get that trust, because you start to kind of go, okay, right, I can see there's people being pinned, so I can see suggested people where the AI's looked at it. I've pinned people, so I've got a lot more reassurance that what is there is what I'm looking for. Related topics is amazing. I love that idea of, I've explored some topics and thought, oh, I didn't realize they were connected, right? So we can connect those topics together, go down a rabbit hole and try to find information. But it's a different way of, rather than me go, what is SOAR? Let's go and search for it. I've got that knowledge coming to me now.
Awesome. And how do you get started with topics, or have you got any guidance for how people go set up topics, or especially if they're doing things on behalf of the organisation?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can start. Firstly, you need to be on a modern SharePoint experience to start with, so SharePoint Online. There are trials available. Of course, if you're working with a partner like Engage Squared, there is actually extended trial capability that you can do that. There is a page in our docs site which talks you through the process, because when you turn it on, it's going to take a while to work. So you don't just turn it on and kind of expect 100 topics to show in the next day. It does take about 2 weeks to work. So there is some planning that you should actually think about before you turn it on, because that 2 weeks of your trial is actually could be looking at actually the product working and finding those topics. So I would say, yep, topics is a trial is available for topics. Please read the documentation carefully before you go run off and say, yep, let's go and start it, because there are things that I'd say make sure you've got these things in place before you start, so that you get best use of your time. Now, Mark, I did want to say I did see a couple of questions in there, so I wanted to reply to Anonymous. Welcome, Anonymous. If I manage a small team of 4 people, will I get the insights of my team, or will the privacy minimum limits kick in? Good question. Yeah, the aggregate level within the workplace analytics tool itself is 5. Is for risk averse organisations, you can increase that to 20. So if I don't have 5 or more data points, it's not going to show anything. If we look at the manager and leader insights within Viva Insights, we have what's called differential privacy applying to that. Basically, putting enough statistical noise in there so that I can't work back and say, oh, Mark went on holiday, that's why, we can see a big impact on this particular statistic. So I've got enough noise in there to stop me from working back. So in that case, you need to have 10 direct or indirect reports for the Viva Insights Manager and Leader Insights capability to work. Of course, you'll need Workplace Analytics license too. So I wanted to just capture that one, because data and privacy, privacy is super important when we start talking about, insights and how to use them. That can be a whole other session. Yeah.
Gus, could I flip to you? You've obviously the last few months been talking to lots of customers around Viva and working with them. what are the sort of what's been the interest and sort of the I'll use that expression, use cases, but how are they sort of customers seeing the overall Viva experience might help them and what they're tackling at the moment?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, there's a lot of interest. I've spoken to countless number of customers. I think there is some trends though that I'm seeing through a lot of them. I think as we're coming out, at least in Australia, luckily enough, coming out of some of the lockdowns and those things, organisations are starting to adjust to what the new world of work looks like. And the majority of the ones I've spoken to are moving to what, I guess, a hybrid model where offices are open, you can go if you want, but there's generally no expectation to be in there 5 days a week. And so with that comes a bunch of other considerations. So as I mentioned earlier, how do we make sure that our employees feel like they're part of something bigger than just their Teams meetings that they have every day or the projects that they work on? That's certainly one theme, and that's where things like connections and those type of things can come in. I think the well-being stuff is absolutely on top of people's mind, and burnout and all that type of thing. Even in Microsoft, Karlee mentioned we get the extra 5 days well-being. My team just today announced some money we can spend towards taking the family out to dinner, those type of things. So there's a big focus around well-being and ensuring your employees are I guess mentally fit and also physically fit, being stuck at home all day. So there's that sort of stuff as well. I also see a lot of the customers I've been working with have a large frontline base. So whether that's retail, mostly retail, big retail customers. And there, again, the big push that they're trying to get is how do we ensure that those frontline workers who may be shift workers, maybe casual, how do we make sure that they're bought in to what we're trying to do at a company level? But I think also people are starting to recognise that expertise and knowledge that frontline workers have. Like, these are the people that talk to the customers every day. How do we make sure that we can get the information that they're hearing directly from customers, but learn from their experiences? And how, if they get questions that they don't know how to answer, how do we make sure that they can find the information they need? And again, that's where things like connections, topics, and even learning come into it. So we're seeing it across the board, I think, but they're certainly the broad themes that I've seen across my customers.
And I guess the classic question we get asked is especially with Office frontline, the which tool when question. Is that still coming up, or is this suite platform going to help? How are you currently answering the sort of people say we don't know which tool, we don't know where to find stuff?
I don't think I've ever heard that question before. Which tool? No. Look, I think I think inevitably that's going to be there, and that's going to come down to, I think, how these tools are rolled out in the first place, both the Viva modules, but also the ones underneath it that support it. People need to understand the what's in it for me, for Yammer, for SharePoint, for Teams, for all this stuff. Like, how does this add value to my work, and how can I add value to it? So I think they are there, but to be fair, I think over the last 12 to 18 months, and including up to Viva, Microsoft as a whole has got much clearer about which tool when. And I would even argue now, it's even like Viva is a great example. Like, they didn't release 4 new apps, as in like apps that they're all coming through Teams. So the tool is Teams, and then you just decide what you want to do. So whether that's communities, whether that's learning, whether that's insights, all those type of things, like the tool is Teams. And so that should help simplify. Like, I don't have to go to this thing to look at this and this thing to do this. The tool's Teams, and then you just need to work out what I'm actually doing. What do I need to get done? And more that stuff will service as you're in flow, basically. So I think it's getting easier. Absolutely. Awesome.
And I guess from a organizational point of view, and this could be this is open to either of you. Understand comms getting involved in Yammer and SharePoint, understand there's HR systems. Who needs to be involved in terms of making the most out of these 4 modules and what's to come in terms of organisations? Who's the audience? Because it seems to me the employee experience is often put over in the people and culture area. Is it a technology play? Do they both need to work together? How does leadership and comms and other areas and frontline managers, how do they fit in?
Yeah, I think I'll take that one to start with. I think it's important for those of you who've worked with Microsoft as you know, as part of your role, you'll understand that traditionally in the past it's been a very IT centric relationship that we have and that our products have with the IT teams. What we're seeing here with this change into workplace analytics and now into that Viva suite is we're really starting to see a change in who that audience is that we're talking to, that we're working with, right, and that who decide in these particular products. And in this case, right, you've hit the nail on the head in terms of we're getting comms teams, we're getting knowledge managers, we're getting learning people and HR people involved in these discussions, and they have a say in it, and they often have a big say in it. And so really it's important to kind of think, if you're kind of in that IT kind of space, is to think, I really need to bring these other business decision makers on that journey. And you know, coming, as I said at the start, right, from an HR perspective, a lot of people in the HR community were like, oh yeah, this is great, we've got this holy grail of kind of this employee experience, but it was just really focused on that lens. It's not, it's more than that. And I think if you look at that customer experience journey that that organizations have been on over the many years, from, you know, insights to the experience, we're seeing this, or I'm seeing this replicated now, or for that employee experience. How, you know, in 10 years time, are we going to be, you know, how powerful might the insights be to really nudge those changes, and how are we going to shape the communication, and how we create a culture within the organisation of being able to do our job more efficiently and enjoying that experience.
Okay, so on that culture issue, I guess a lot of the tools that people are using will be their employee surveys or their comms, you know, surveys are good, and then these days quite detailed. And how does the Viva platform ecosystem fit in with those things that traditionally might be informing HR or comms, if it's a comms survey, or HR if it's an employee survey, or what have you? How does this sort of fit in?
Yeah, so I think, you know, culture, really there is a lot. The employee experience really underpins like what culture you have, right? So for example, Microsoft culture around being a learn-it-all culture, not a know-it-all culture, right? So underpinning that is learning and the ability to learn in the flow of our work and get access and know where those courses are that will really create and reinforce that culture. On top of that, you know, the communications from, you know, our senior leadership that come down into Yammer, to our internal teams that come through Teams, those communications and that two-way communications, if I think about it from just a pure Microsoft perspective, the ability to actually communicate with our senior leaders back and forward and have that open culture of conversation through connections, you know, that's what we're looking at. Democratize knowledge and allowing knowledge to be there for everything, you know, that's important. So all of this is really underpinning the culture that you have, and I think thinking about how you use the tools to do that, what your culture is, what you're aiming to achieve, and these are a tool to really help drive that culture.
Interesting. Okay, well, we are coming to our last 10 minutes, and I can encourage anyone who's got any burning questions now, put them in the chat. Gus, I'll go to you next and sort of say, okay, if someone is really interested and really wants to get deeper into the Viva modules and really plan what they're doing as an organisation for the rest of the year, where would you direct them? Obviously, we're happy to help them from Engage Squared, but where would you point someone that's really really wants to pursue something in a serious way around Viva?
Well, I mean, without even joking, Mike, it would be a partner like yourselves. I think that was a soft throw, but I'll hit it out of the park for you. But I think certainly there are partners, and Engage Squared is a great one in Australia that's been with us on the journey since before we launched this. There's a lot of materials out there that we launched, so through the tech community or the I think I'll put the link in the chat, but it's aka.ms/Viva, and you can go into each of the modules there and learn more. The thing I think that's worth knowing about this is it's moving fast, even internally. I'm sure Karlee can attest. There's new stuff popping up every week, new content, new updates. This is the new Microsoft where stuff moves pretty quickly. So certainly stay on top of the blogs. But again, I think partners are a great way to stay involved, and I think the partners have been heavily involved as we've gone through this journey as well. So they're up to speed as much as anyone.
Yeah, there's lots of things that you can do depending on which one you want to start with. So the first thing I would do is when you are talking about Viva is think about which of the modules that your organisation will prioritise, right? Because each of them has its own purpose. Your business decision makers, the sponsors within the organisation that are after that. Come talk to your Microsoft account manager, talk to the Engage Squared team, really thinking, there's opportunities for trials, there's opportunities for workshops, for insights, for example, is to kind of think about, what are the insights that you're looking to, what are the use cases you're looking for, right? So things like that, where you've really got something in your mind framed as to what does success look like. So rather than kind of just turn on a trial and have a play around with it, and insights is not something that you can do that for reasons of, you need data to be able to do that, but really have a course in mind and an outcome that you're looking for, and work with your partners to get the best out of that trial, because in some cases that trial is once only, so you really want to make sure you get the best use out of those trial licenses.
Good suggestions, Karlee and Gus. Appreciate it. Now we are coming. We're coming to pretty well the end of our hour. I talk about my work balance, life balance. I watch Insiders religiously every Sunday morning on the couch with the cat and the Sunday paper, and always finishes with sort of a final observation, ABC Insiders style. So I'm going to let us all close off with, so have a think of a story or something you'd like to share with us, Gus and Karlee. Mine is to remind people, as we're on a webinar, that our next one is going to be on the 3rd of June. It'll be on how to become an awesome team on Teams, and we've got insights from Swoop Analytics. They've just releasing their Microsoft Teams benchmarking report, which we've been involved with the last couple of years, and they're well known for doing the one on Yammer as well. It really is something where you can benchmark how your team's performing. So that should be fun on the 3rd of June. Look at our website for details to register for that when it comes out on the 3rd of June. And I think we've also got a Viva page on our Engage Squared website, engagesq.com, that you can also check out if you want to start looking at Viva. So Gus, have you got anything final for us you'd like to share?
Yeah, two things. One, just quickly, Mike, thanks again to Engage Squared to putting these events on. You guys do a great job of supporting the local community and market. So appreciate the invite to come on and share what little knowledge I have with everybody. It was nice to listen to Karlee, so that was good. My final thought, I think it's worth noting that, as excited as I am as a Microsoft employee, even to see Viva and see Microsoft kind of go all in employee experience, technology itself is not going to solve all your problems inside your organization. So it's really important that, we touched on, it's about culture, it's about having leadership buying, and really the technology is 20%, the rest is about people, and employee experience really is all about people. And so it's really important that the leaders out there understand that they can't just deploy technology that's going to fix any underlying issues. If anything, it'll amplify them. So it's really important that we approach these type of things holistically and with a true attitude of wanting to change it and make our experiences for employees better.
Great, love the people first. Yes, good final observation. And Karlee?
Look, I would say this, yeah, definitely what Angus was talking about. I've covered a few key things about, it's not just about IT, it is about the business decision makers. I would say don't get too excited and bite off more than you can chew, is really have that strategy and that plan in place to, it isn't just about the tech, as Angus is saying. It's really about the whole, the change, the comms that go with it. It's about, thinking it through. There are definitely some quick wins out there to consider, but this is the employee experience platform. We've put a stake in the ground and said, this is what it is. This is big. It's not going to go away, and it's definitely something to consider. And I'm super excited to be talking to you today, because I'm very thankful to be a part of a team and seeing it from the ground up. I heard about this 3 days before the announcement, so and I'm really happy to be a part of a team of global black belts, or the product experts that come and share and evangelise our story. So thank you so much to Engage Squared for having this session today, and to the customers who are on the call.
Thank you, Gus. Thank you, Karlee. Thanks everyone for joining, and I think that's a very good note, Karlee, to finish on, saying this is going to be big, and very much now's the time to start investigating more. So good luck to all our customers and business users on the call, and we look forward to seeing you online again or in person, and we'll be doing something, like I say, on the 3rd of June. So thank you, and Viva on. Bye-bye for now.